And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the Bottom Line. Lanny Ford along with you here. I think Ford's going to be gone. He's traveling some during the day. Next couple of weeks, I get in here with you. Juju will join me here in just a little bit. First thing right off the bat, I want to let you know I'm a brand new pawpaw. Except I'm not pawpaw, I'm Poppy. Wesley, my son, his wife Camion, had a beautiful baby boy on Monday about 5 o'clock in the morning. 7 pounds, 6 ounces, 20 and a half inches long. His name is Maxwell Gene Ford. So we call him Cubby because that's what we called him the whole time when she was pregnant with him was Cubby because they couldn't figure out and finalize a name. So Cubby it is. So I'm the proud poppy of Cubby and excited about it. A couple things going on. Happen to be in downtown Lincoln on the weekend this weekend. Apple Festival will be underway. We'll be down there. I'll be down there with the Lincoln Times News. We've got a booth, I think we're in the third block, if I'm not mistaken. That's down there around where First Federal is, I believe. But we'll be down there, and we'll have some newspapers to give away, and we'll be signing up some specials on subscriptions if you don't subscribe. But you might want to subscribe to the Lincoln Times News. Catch up with some good things. Good morning, for Rembert. You're up bright and early. Thank you, Milton. Chase, thank you, and thank you for. Yeah, I'm all excited. Can't wait to go back down and see little man there. Everybody got home yesterday, and everybody's doing good. A little rough night last night. That was their first night at home. That happens sometimes, and it's kind of rough those first couple of weeks, but then it all comes together. But he's going to have a great set of parents to take care of him, and a lot of aunts and uncles and grandparents on both sides. So everybody's very excited to welcome Cubby into the world. So, all right, let's go to some sports. A couple of things. I don't have a whole lot for you this morning. I'll go ahead and give you my projections and predictions for baseball. I think the Phillies win it all. I think it comes down between the Phillies and the Rangers, but the Phillies just don't look like they can be stopped at this point. They won last night over the Diamondbacks 10-0. They lead the series 2-0, and I don't see that changing. You know, maybe it does, and then you go to the other side of the bracket, and it's not a whole lot different. Some domination that's going on over there. Rangers and the Astros. Rangers lead 2-0. Much closer games. The Rangers won the first game 2-0, and then they won the second game 5-4. They will play at 8:03 tonight. That's on FS1, Game 3, Astros at the Rangers. So the Rangers were able to pick up 2 wins away. And so we'll see where that goes. Might end this one kind of quick. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. On the other side of the bracket, I said Phillies and the Diamondbacks. The Phillies won Game 1 5-3. Last night they won 10-0. They're back in action at 5:07 on TBS, and that will be on Thursday. So that's where things stand with baseball at this time. Forrest said, Mandy and I haven't slept in 18 years. Thank you, Bruce. Lincoln, thank you. Yeah, I don't sleep anyway. Sleep's overrated, I think. That's just my opinion. A couple things coming up. Basketball is going to get started here soon. Football is starting to wind down a little bit college-wise. NBA starts playing, and it's not going to be too far off. But the preseason AP poll was released. And I'll share that with you. Kansas at number 1, followed by Duke, Purdue, Michigan State, Marquette, and UConn at number 6. Kansas got 46 first-place votes. Duke with 11, Purdue with 3, Michigan State with 1, UConn with 2. Rounding out the rest of the numbers, it's Houston, Creighton, Tennessee, Florida Atlantic, Gonzaga, Arizona, Miami, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Kentucky, San Diego State, Texas, North Carolina, coming in at number 19. So there's 3 ACC teams in the top 20, followed by Baylor, Southern Cal, Villanova, St. Mary's, Alabama, and Illinois. So that's what the AP poll looks like on the preseason. Can't go a whole lot with that. One of the other things that we talk about a little bit in here is NIL, and they're having at a Senate hearing. NCAA President Charlie Baker shifted the focus of college needs towards the possibility of athletes being deemed employees of their school and away from federal legislation to regulate how they can be compensated. Well, Big Ten Commissioner Tommy Petty and Notre Dame athletic Jack Swarbrick, who's retiring, were among the witnesses appearing in front of the Judiciary Committee, the 10th hearing on college sports to be held on Capitol Hill since 2020. Now, here's the deal. In my opinion, there's enough going on that the legislature doesn't need to be dealing with college athletics. Okay? Nothing going on that they need to be doing. The president, Baker, said his open statement that college sports are overdue for a change. Well, guess what, NCAA? You drug your feet. It's nice to say that now, looking back, but you drug your feet on getting ahead of this and putting things into play. Everywhere that NIL is and compensation, all this stuff lays purely at the feet of the NCAA and the college presidents. They drug their feet. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And it happened. And if you had got in front of it, we maybe wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. He also followed it up by saying, but I am proud to say we are doing something about it. No, you're not, and nobody's going to listen to you. They'll pull out from under you. Baker, who's president of the NCAA's former governor of Massachusetts, he touted recent reforms by the NCAA, including more long-term health insurance for athletes, degree completion funds for up to 10 years, and scholarship protections. All that's going to really not matter when you finish getting down on this, okay? And, you know, one of the things, Lindsey Graham, Republican out of South Carolina, said Utah's offering everybody on the team a new truck. Between the transfer portal and NIL, college football is in absolute chaos. But you, Lindsey Graham, don't need to be worried about that. How does that affect with you running the country and making decisions for the country? Leave it alone. Step out. Legislature, step out. You don't need to be involved in that. Let it go. Thank you, Bob. Milton said throw a politician in and it gets really bad really fast. And you're exactly right. That's why they need to just get out of it. There are other legal threats to the collegiate model have emerged. An antitrust case could force schools and conferences to compete at the highest level of the NCAA into professional-style sports revenue sharing in the media dollars that's out there in basketball and football. NCAA is composed of 1,100 schools serving hundreds of thousands of athletes, and they have no control over any of it. They pretend that they do, but they really don't because the college presidents can do what they want to. Just that simple. You make enough of them mad, they'll pull out and do their own thing. Baker said athletic representation from all three divisions have stated they do not want to be employees of their school. He said that without congressional action, Division II and III schools might abandon their athletic programs. Well, those programs won't abandon them because they can't put out that kind of money. I don't think. I could be wrong. Might be NIL money out there. I don't think so. That's where it's still pure college athletics, the way I look at college athletics. And I hope that that doesn't change. I hope it does not change at all. Let's see. Division I basketball tournament accounts for most of the association's annual revenue, which surpassed $1 billion last year. And Power 5 conferences have multi-billion-dollar television contracts with most of the value driven by football. People are discussing closing the door on employee status without paying the athletes fairly. Now, I saw something come down yesterday that talked about is the only way we get this under control, and I hate to say it, is the only way we get this under control is we have a collective bargaining. I hope it doesn't go that way. I really do. I hope it does not go that way. I don't think that helps us. I think that hurts us. But we'll have to kind of wait and see on that. I think they need to have their own association of the top programs. One of the ideas kicked around, and we said it in here, is like the Premier League, I think it is, in soccer over in Europe works. You have to earn your way into the top half. And if you can't earn your way up there and get there, then you don't get to play in the big games and the big money and the big exposure. But in case you don't know what is holding things up, it is college presidents not wanting to give up control. Okay? No different than it is on the high school side. We've talked about it many times before. High School Athletic Association has some control, but not a lot, because the local education unit can kind of decide what they want to do. So until everybody gets on the same page, it's kind of hard to have a standard that everybody lives by. It's hard to have a standard where everything works like it should work. So I just don't know that that happens. I'm just not sure that that happens. Too many people have to make too many big changes that I don't think they would be happy with. Could be wrong. Let me take a time out, come back. Juju will join us. We'll catch up. Lenore-Ryan on a roll as they're starting to close down their season as well. That with Juju when we come back.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer.
That
a variety of meats,
when we
vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC and the New York Stock Exchange. As we do each and every Wednesday morning, we like to talk to our good friend Juju Phillips, get an update on those rolling Bears, and the Bears are rolling, aren't they, Juju? Good morning.
Hey, Lanny, good morning. As always, pleasure to join you. Yeah, LR moving up in the rankings and now won 7 in a row after their win last week. Impressive win at home, homecoming, large crowd, about 50 recruits were on hand. Just a great day all the way around. They played a Barton team that was 5-1, having their best season ever, and a team that I think the point spread was 20 points, and the Bears jumped out to an early lead, 7-3, and it was a close game. And then LR reeled off 40 consecutive points, went on to win easily. Bears had over 500 yards of offense. Their defense shut down Barton, which had a really good running back. They held them to under 200 yards of total offense. Just a good, solid, all-the-way around performance. The Bears are now 7-0, ranked 10th in the nation. They now have 2 tough road games coming up. They go to Newberry this Saturday and then the following week at Wingate, which will likely be for the South Atlantic Conference Championship.
Did I read somewhere that it was based on new seating at the stadium, that it was a new record of attendance?
Yes, yeah. the stadium when they redid it and everything, it was about 6,700, I think, tickets. Well, not tickets, but seats. They oversold, obviously. For homecoming, they had a bunch of people either standing room only or people that were tailgating that were within the stadium. So they sold that many tickets. It was, I believe, 6,746, I believe, or 70. Check that, 76.
Yeah.
46, I think was the total. But yeah, they it was a rather large crowd. Obviously, for homecoming, the team is winning. They had a lot of anniversaries going on. They celebrated and honored the 2013 football team that went to the national championship game. They celebrated and honored the recent lacrosse national championship. And again, they had almost 50 recruits and their families on hand for that as well. So it was a big day, a lot of people there, and the Bears put on a show.
Yeah, I thought that I had read it was well over 7,000 that was in attendance. I saw that on some, might have been a press release or something that came down, and that's impressive. And you know, it took a little while for kind of this team to kind of gel together, but it looks like they've kind of got things on track.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lanny. One of the reasons, I don't know if the schedule was all that difficult early on, but they were able to, go and win games by large margins. I think they've covered the point spread. There's a computer that does D2 football, and they covered the point spreads. They're 5-2 so far this year if they covered the point spreads. But, yeah, they were a team that made the quarterback change a couple of weeks ago, and the quarterback, Jalen Ferguson, was not expected to play. We were told Friday, that he was not going to play and that the previous quarterback, Sean White, would start. Well, Ferguson started. He led the team on the first possession of the game for a touchdown and never looked back. They had a fantastic performance. He threw for over 200, I think a career high, 251 or 61 yards. And this one stat stands out to me, Landy. Coach Mike Jacobs' team continues to improve, and they played 7 football games this year, and they have not lost a fumble, which is amazing. You talk about football this day and time and spread offenses and stuff like that. They have not lost a fumble all year long, and I'm not a big fan of, I don't believe in jinxes necessarily, and maybe they'll go out and put the ball on the ground 10 times this week, but in 7 football games this year, they have not lost a single fumble. And they scored on their first possession in 5 consecutive games. And now they have the second longest winning streak in Division II football. They've won 9 straight games, which is the second longest winning streak in D2 football. So, yeah, things are rolling for the Bears right now.
Yeah, that's impressive. Where would you look if you were looking for really exceptional standout performances from Saturday? Where would you look?
Offensively, I'd say the quarterback position. Again, Jalen Ferguson, who, when I saw him practice, he practiced very little Wednesday and Thursday, and he looked like he was on a gimpy ankle. He had an ankle problem. He came out, didn't run, have to run around everything, turn, hand it off, roll out a little bit, throw passes. But he was, I think, completed almost 80% of his passes, 19 for 24. 261, I think, through 3 touchdowns. His favorite receiver, D.R.E. Rogers, a freshman out of Irmo, South Carolina, caught 11 passes. That's quite a bit. And their defense was just solid all the way around. Guys up front slowed down the running attack. Their linebackers have been good all year. They got 3 levels of defense. Again, it was just a good, solid performance against a team that was really good coming in. Barton had just came off a win over Newberry, whom the Bears play this week, and they beat Newberry by almost 3 touchdowns. So, and they came into LR with coming off their biggest win of maybe their program history, and the Bears took it to them 47-3. So, yeah, everything seems to be going good. The Bears were banged up a little bit. They're getting some of those guys back healthy. So, final 3 road games in their final 4 games. So if LR is going to get into the NCAA playoffs, which is a really likely possibility, they're going to be road tested, especially with games coming up against Newberry and Wingate in the next 2 weeks.
And, it's you talk about being a little banged up. That's not unusual this time of year. This is when you start to either you're getting some banged up or you're starting to get some of the early ones that were banged up back, that can kind of make it in.
It is. The attrition factor is definitely very big, and I think the teams that have some depth or have built depth or have developed depth, well, call it what you will, are the teams can overcome and survive this, and I think LR is in really good position. We've seen teams that they've played this year, they lose a player, and there's a major drop-off in production. Not so with the Bears football, and they had 3 running backs. All 3 have been very productive this year. For instance, Dwayne McGee was suspended earlier in the year, missed 2 games, and the Bears, they had not lost a beat. The other couple of weeks back, some of their backup running backs came in critical plays in the fourth quarter. And in overtime, they ran the ball effectively. They've lost some players up front on the defensive line. They built depth there. This might be the best all-around team that Lenore Ryan has seen probably since that championship team back in 2013.
Mm-hmm. When you look at it, it sounds like one of the things that maybe is a huge contributor to the success they've had, it looks like they've been able to find an identity of who they are as far as the way they want to run the offense and being able to kind of call and run the game plan that they would like to, not being dictated per se by the defense.
Yeah, I think when they made the change at quarterback, they became a team that was maybe a little bit harder to prepare for. The previous ways, I think LR was probably very easy. Well, I say not very, but they were easier to prepare for because they ran the ball on first down. They almost exclusively, the teams brought in players in the box. They stacked the box against LR. Now with this Ferguson kid in, they do a lot of play action passes. They roll him out. They run him, and so they've gotten guys out of the box and they open up the offense a little bit because the defenses don't know exactly what they're going to do. The running attack is still very solid. But the passing has been, they found couple of deep threats. They've thrown the ball deep, some intermediate routes across the middle. They have a good screen game. Again, they're just have more variety in their offense and more balance, definitely. And I think that's been one of the big reasons why they're undefeated. And they have a bone-crunching defense, which had really one bad game, and that was against Limestone, where the offense bailed them out, and so did the special teams. But the defense has been outstanding all year. They're second or third in the nation in total defense, and it's going to go up even more after last week's win, giving up only 3 points against Barton.
And this is still, I think we talked about it earlier, still a fairly young team.
They are young, relatively young. They're playing some freshmen. They're playing some redshirt freshmen, but that extra year, the COVID year, they got guys that are juniors and sophomores that have 2 or 3 years eligibility left. You look at a guy like Dwayne McGee, who's already played basically 3 years of football. He's still got 2 more years of eligibility. Mm-hmm. So, and they have Mike Jacobs has done a good job of getting those guys developed and playing. Some of those starters on the offensive line for the Bears, and again, they've had some fluctuation with the coaching staff on the offensive line, but this year seems to be solid. Their starting centers played almost 40 football games. Mm-hmm. And while he is a senior, some of those other guys up front are in their 20s and 30s, and they still got 2 years of eligibility left. So, yeah, they've been able to build this product right now with relatively young. I wouldn't say they're not senior-laden, but they have experience, yet they have a bunch of players with several years of eligibility remaining.
And, when you look at it, Juju, one of the things when you talk about Division II or Division III and even FCS, if those kids have got eligibility left, they're going to play it all because you don't have to worry about them opting out just as soon as they can get of age.
Yeah, and unless you are a player that you graduated and you're really good, you might try to move up maybe to the Division I or FCS school. There was a guy at Newberry last year, their running back, who was an offensive player of the year in the SAC. He graduated, transferred to South Carolina, and he's playing for them quite a bit. Had a big run a couple of weeks ago, like 75 yards, and I think he scored a couple of touchdowns since. That's probably a rare case. Rarely do you see a few players that'll jump up from Division II to FCS, but even rarer to go from Division II up to Division I in terms of FBS. So, yeah, Coach Jacobs has mentioned about he's not a big fan. He's probably a little bit more open than, say, Dabo of bringing in transfers. They brought in transfers and dabbled in it and fill in gaps. But they've done a good job of developing the players and recruiting the players once they get here to keep them here. And I think he should be, applauded for that. And he's built a very solid football program.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. What else is going on, my friend?
Well, I was looking at the college football rankings and major college football rankings and all this talk about Colorado. And, yeah, they've come back to the pack a little bit. And yet they're still a good story. They're going to be on national TV again this week. But who do you think, take out Colorado, who do you think is the most surprising college football team of the top 10 this year? And I came up with Duke. The Blue Devils are 10th in the nation, and they're a 4th and 16 away from being undefeated. But the stat that hit me, Lanny, is I was reading over some things, that 2 years ago when Mike Elko took over, Duke's defense was ranked 120th in the country. This week, they're ranked 4th. And that defense, part of it, thanks to a local kid from Newton Conover, Brandon Johnson. But to go from the 120th ranked defense to 4th, and they still got tough tests coming up. Florida State this weekend. They got Carolina in a couple of weeks as well. They're going to have some say in who wins the ACC. And right now, again, they're one down away from being undefeated. I think they're one of the, if not one of the top 2 or 3 most surprising teams in college football. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Of course, we took a loss to them at the beginning of the year. Clemson did, but they've got a fairly tough road to hoe coming up down the stretch here, as you said. Some of the opponents that they've got to face coming up, and I'll just pull it up here.
Yeah, they got Florida State.
State this weekend, and that's going to be interesting in itself. Because Florida State is not quite, I don't think, lived up to its expectations. But the one, it doesn't get any easier because right after Florida State, they've got to go to Louisville. And that's 2 tough road games right there. And then they got to go to Carolina. Now, the other 3 games they've got left is Wake Forest, Virginia, and Pitt. They shouldn't have any problem. But that's a pretty good 3 right there they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, you're right. And they need to get their quarterback.
And all on the road. All 3 of those tough games on the road.
Yeah, and they had a good performance last week on the road against NC State. And so, yeah, they got to continue to do that. And, on the flip side, maybe the most disappointing teams in the state of North Carolina in college football, how about East Carolina and UNC Charlotte? Both are 1-5. They play each other this weekend. And App State now 3-3, though they lost a couple of tough, close ball games. But those 3 schools, definitely disappointing. I'm sure expectations were higher for Appalachian and definitely for East Carolina to be 1-5 going into their game with UNC Charlotte this weekend, or Charlotte, and their new coach, Coach Biff. We'll see how that turns out because 2 1-5 teams playing each other, that's going to be tough to watch. But again, 2 teams plus Appalachian that were probably had higher expectations of themselves going into this season. It certainly has not turned out just yet.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm not surprised by Charlotte because they can't figure out who they are and what they are. They're still struggling, and that's not changing. It doesn't look like. However, when I look at East Carolina and Appalachian, East Carolina, I must say I'm almost baffled. Appalachian is almost a Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know which one's going to show up, and they're really bad to spot somebody 2 to 3 scores before they ever get the game started. And it's hard to come back to a bad team that far in the hole, much less a good team. But the ECU one is the one that I can't quite figure out.
Yeah, and we've had Mike Houston on the show several times. I think they lost their quarterback and some running backs. They don't have any offense. They've got one of the worst. Charlotte and East Carolina are among the worst offenses in all of college football. They're ranked really down. And they just haven't, East Carolina specifically, just haven't developed the kind of offense and either quarterback or running back or skill players that is needed in this day and time in college football. And they're struggling right now. They need to get it turned around. Maybe they'll get it against Charlotte this weekend when they play each other. The other story I'm interested in, Lanny, from the NFL perspective, as there was a story that came out, and I can't remember who wrote it, but right now the NFL has the youngest group of starting quarterbacks in the history of the Super Bowl era.
Mm-hmm.
Since the mid-1960s, they got more young quarterbacks. And one reason, that they said that's the main reason why offenses continue to go down. Did you know that offenses this year, you take out that game when Miami scored 70 points, a couple of weeks ago, offenses are down 3 to 4 points a game this year. And over the last 3 or 4 years, or since COVID, they're down nearly 14 points a game. So, you know, when you lose, like, I don't know, Brady and Breeze and Ben and Eli and Matt Ryan and Rodgers is on his last leg, who's the next group of quarterbacks, you know, besides Patrick Mahomes and maybe Josh Allen? Who's going to be the next group of quarterbacks that's going to carry the league? Everybody's really young right now, and I think it's being seen in the NFL that's why so many offenses are struggling around the league.
But that's a double-edged sword right there, Juju, for the simple reason that the NFL has finally figured out you can't really win and make it to the big game unless you've got a quarterback on a first contract. So you've got to find a quarterback that doesn't have to be, you know, an Andrew Luck or a Patrick Mahomes, but you've got to find one that is very serviceable so you can wrap good talent around it. Because if you don't, when the quarterbacks get into that next contract, they're eating up over 30% of the cap on one position. And you'll find that, here again, look at the teams other than Kansas City. But I think Mahomes is another one that will do team-friendly deals, it appears. But most of these players won't do that. And I think you're seeing the NFL make a switch and a change on how they do things. And part of that is because, and I haven't seen a number on this, but I would think that the average age of an NFL head coach is way down from what it used to be too.
Yeah, probably. But I'm just surprised at the way the rules are geared towards the offense, that this past weekend only 2 teams in the NFL scored more than 26 points. Mm-hmm. And there are only, I don't know, half a dozen teams that are averaging over 25 points a game this year. So offense is down up to 10 or 12 points over the last 3 or 4 years. Is it because defenses have figured them out? They're going to zone defenses and forcing offenses to take the ball down the field slowly, and when they do, there's a penalty or a sack or a turnover. You don't have the long drives that you used to. Teams are gearing up for those big strike, big play offenses, and that's just not happening right now. Whatever reason, the NFL is down in terms of offensive productivity, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can get it turned around the final half of the season.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I'm completely fine with the low scoring because I think the games are more competitive. And part of that, like I say, they don't have gunslingers out there as quarterbacks because of the young age, and they're looking for quarterbacks that can get the win, not pad the stats. And I don't think that's going to change. The Four talks about that all the time, about the rule changes have been skewed for the offense, and I agree with that. Plus, the other side of it is I think it's a little easier for defenses to prepare for the younger quarterbacks because they don't have the depth and knowledge of some of the older veterans.
Yeah, and the fact, too, that I think your better athletes are on the defensive line and linebackers.
Yes.
Especially on the defensive line. They're quicker, faster, and probably better athletes than offensive linemen. And that's what the teams that had strong seasons that were consistent last year are teams that decided, hey, we're going to simplify our offense and run the football.
Well, that's
play action pass, but really try to run the ball because that's what our offensive line likes to do and is better at than pass blocking. And because I just think the defenses are so sophisticated, and guys that are 6'2", 230 pounds that can run like the wind are playing defensive end or outside linebackers or safeties, and they could run, and it's hard to block those guys unless you run the football straight ahead. And I thought the other interesting thing that, talking about plays of the quarterback, that the Panthers, after just 6 games now, are going to switch the play calling from Frank Reich to Thomas Jones, the offensive coordinator. They're going to bring him out of the booth, put him down on the sidelines, and let him be the play caller starting this weekend or when they play next.
Well, they're looking to see if they can find some kind of spark, and they haven't yet. I don't think it's this weekend, but the next game up for them is going to be the Texans, which will be two first-year quarterbacks against each other. And I've said it before, if you swap those two quarterbacks, I don't think you do any better with the Panthers because of what's around them. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to build that back. It's not going to happen, overnight. It's going to take a little bit. But it's one of those things where you can skew the rules, but they're making other changes with a different philosophy from these younger head coaches. Now, the final thing I think for the NFL offense to do to make it more productive is you got to get away from these motor graders because it's not a run-first league anymore. It's a keep a defense honest with running. And until you get away from these big 300, 330-pound offensive linemen that can't move and kind of get a more athletic 260, 270-pound offensive lineman that's got a closer skill set to the defense they're facing, you're not going to see any changes.
I totally agree. Can't argue with you there.
As an old offensive lineman, I don't like to see my fat boys be thrown off. But it's real. I mean, it's true. You can't just have those big motor graders up there. Even on defense, Juju, you're not seeing these 350-pound tackles, a few of them, but they used to just be massive, just wanting, they really were there just to plug holes. And I think even the defense is finding, we need 4 athletes with their hand in the dirt on the defensive side of the ball because the offensive lineman can't move and keep up.
Yeah, and the other part is the way the offenses are spread out with the spread, and it's basically 7-on-7, where defensively you don't really need these big, as you call them, big guys up front to take up space. You need guys that can maneuver in space, that are quick in space, and I'm not sure how many kids grow up and want to be offensive linemen, right? Even in college, I don't know. A lot of them, well, yeah. Well, maybe you're the exception. I think kids want to grow up and either if they're going to play defense, they want to be running around and tackling, and definitely on offense, they want to be out, catching the football. It's tough to develop offensive linemen. I mean, high school coaches will tell you that's the toughest thing to find are offensive linemen.
That's because
walk down the hallway.
Yeah, you can't find the ones. You can't find the ones that won't play. But if you can find some that are coachable, and I'll just tell you from experience, I think it's a much easier game from the offensive line point than it is the defensive line point because you're not having to exert nearly the effort that the defense is if you learn the proper techniques and you've got the agility, the feet to be able to move and handle it. I've always felt like that on offensive linemen, and I've struggled when I was coaching to convince kids of that because, as you said, nobody wants to play offensive line. You're the unsung hero, but if you want to play the game and want to be able to go out there and go to war and go to battle, there's not a better position than the offensive line, and especially when I played because we got to pull. There was a lot more running and a lot more pulling, and there was nothing better than cutting that corner and mowing down a corner.
And from a defensive standpoint, when I played strong safety in college and in high school or free safety, you hate to come up and try to, help on the run, and you see guys pulling, and you guys say, oh, do I get out of the way, or I dive down in the dirt and let him run over me? I mean, you don't have very much time to make a decision. Nowadays, kids are so fast, they just run right around the offensive line.
One of the best that I saw do it is in the Catawba County Sports Hall of Fame. He's in the Appalachian State Football Hall of Fame, and that's Matt Eisenhower. I mean, because he could do that, and the big schools missed out on it, but that's okay. He got a couple national championships out of it.
That's right.
What else you got, sir?
That is it, man. We had enough football talk to cover everything. That's what I had on my cheat sheet this morning is football talk with a couple of talking points, and I think we covered it all, my friends.
Who's going to the World Series?
I'd like to see the Texas Rangers because they got a bushel full of former Hickory Crawdads on their roster, including their general manager, who's a former Hickory Crawdad player. And I would say maybe the Phillies. I'd like to see the Phillies go back. And I'm pulling for the other team from Pennsylvania against maybe the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that can beat the Phillies. I'll just be honest with you in what I've seen, and I'm not a baseballer, but that's what I've seen. However, the Rangers, it would be nice to see them for the simple reason the former West Lincoln student player played his baseball at Davidson. He's a scout. So if the Rangers could win one, he gets a ring. Might be the first world championship ring that a player from West Lincoln has had in any sport.
Interesting. Yeah. And there's a couple of guys for Texas that were playing with the Crawdads just last year in 2022, and now they're in the big leagues and leading them to an early lead in their best of 7 against the Astros. So there's some good storylines there, and hopefully the Rangers and the Phillies can go, and there should be that could be a really good World Series between the Phillies and Rangers.
I agree. As always, my friend, I appreciate your time, and we'll get together and do it again next week.
All right, Lanny. Thank you as always, too, man. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir. We'll take a time out. We'll wind it up right here. I'll see you tomorrow. For Rembert won't be here, but maybe I will. Have a good one.